Our next speaker is heading a company which has been causing a revolution in digital and mobile payments globally since 1999. Starting from Sweden, just for a few years, its services were launched in other European countries, followed by expansion in Asia, Africa, the Americas, and the Middle East. It's a pleasure for us to welcome the CEO of Seamless, Peter FREDELL.
Hi, I think I have a slide presentation which I traditionally don't use anyway, so you can download it, I think, on their website or from our net. Anyway, the two former speakers have talked about the Bitcoin type of currency and also the user experience, which we agree with all of it. We are going the same way, but we are taking it from another direction. And our main concern is something that hasn't been talked about here at all today, and that is money, i.e. the cost for a merchant, essentially you as a consumer, for doing that payment. Now, PayPal today, I believe, charge about 3.5% from an online retailer to pay, to get paid. That's 3.5% of top-line revenue. Now, for online retailers, this works because PayPal has a very good service that increases conversion rate, i.e., when online retailers sell stuff, they have noticed, and this is pretty much a global figure, that they lose about 50% of their clients at the moment of payment. So if you come up with a system that makes the payment smoother, you will increase conversion and thereby make the online retailer make more money. Now, so you don't really care so much about the fees. Now, 95% of our economy, or the consumer economy, is actually offline or physical stores. These guys don't have a problem with conversion at all. There's very seldom that they have people buying food and they come to the cashier point and they just drop the bag and say, no, I don't feel for paying. So for the physical stores, it's a whole different paradigm. They are only interested in mobile payments, which is what we're doing, if they can make money on it. Now, you think, could this really be an important question? And I think you have to consider that a typical large, for example, food store has a net margin of 1%. So if they pay 2% in card fees, then if they could lower that, that would have a very significant effect on their revenues. Now, when I hold these speeches, I try to get your heads around of what size of market we're talking here, because it seems to me that it's hard for many people to understand this. McKinsey, which is a global consultancy company, they just estimated that the fee outtake, i.e. the profit for the players in the payment market, is $1.4 trillion per year. Now that might put it in perspective. This is why we're there, because we see this big pipeline of money and we want to drill a little hole in it and stand with the bucket under. This is why PayPal is there, and this is why everybody is there. Now, I could describe this in another way. The most common good that you are buying when you're in a store is actually the payment itself. Oh, I got my first slide. You can buy beer with our mobile payment service, so that's pretty good. In any case, the most common good that you're buying, without even knowing about it, is the payment. So let's assume 2% of your total purchase is the payment. That's every 50th goods that you buy. And this is everywhere, in every store that take cards. Now you start understanding that this is one of the biggest markets in the world. I often have fun. Now I don't have a whiteboard, but I usually go up and I make a little dot here, you know, like that little dot there, and I say, do you know what that is? And everybody's, no. And I said, that's Spotify's market. The rest of the wall is our market. It's absolutely mind-boggling, the amount of profits that is made in this. Now, so how do you break into that market? Well, you run the payment through another network than the card networks. Now you see Visa and MasterCard and now China UnionPay and a few other sort of smaller players have set up what is called the rails. So when you go and pull your card in a card reader in a store, that card reader, you think it's a card reader, I think it's a router, because I know it's a router. It routes your payment to what we call a liquidity optimizer. Now I'm getting a little bit technical, but it routes it to a bunch of servers. When the payment hit those servers, that's when the fee happens. If you route that payment through the direct debit network, like in the US it's called the ACH network, in Europe it's called the SEPA network, and it exists in every country, here too. As a matter of fact, when you go to your internet bank and you transfer money to your friend or you pay a bill, it routes that payment over the direct debit network. The raw material cost for routing that payment is virtually zero. So if you turn the mobile phone into a router, and the only difference that you do, instead of the physical machines, you route this payment through the direct debit network, and where it goes in and the banks shuffle money back and forth, then suddenly your raw material cost for a payment is zero. So seamless or secure's cost is zero. What happens then? We can offer this payment at half the price compared to a card fee to merchants. Now, suddenly, this game is getting highly, highly interesting, because technically speaking, we just halved the fee intake of $1.4 trillion per year for a lot of players, namely mostly Visa and MasterCard. So this is, I thought, was interesting to talk a little bit about here, because we tend to forget what is behind the scenes in the payments business. So very often when people talk about mobile payments, they have an app and they connect the card to the app, and then, you know, it's very cool. They wave around their mobile and some payment happen. But the merchant, the online merchant or the offline merchant, is what happens for them? Well, it's a card payment, so they have to pay anyway. So that means that, as I said earlier, online guys, they're quite happy to do it, because for some, hopefully, they've signed up to a service that increases conversion rate. But offline physical stores have no such effect. So Seamless then, we set up, we understood this a few years back, and we set up this service we called Secure. And Secure is essentially, as you as a consumer see an app that you download, and essentially what you do is to connect that app to your bank account or to a credit service. In Sweden, which is one of the 5 countries that this service exists in, it's actually a pure credit service. So you pay. The merchant gets paid the day after, but you get a bill at the end of the month, just like a revolving credit card. So it's a revolving credit card without the card. That's the key here. Now, how we do that is that in physical store, we put a sticker. And you can actually see that sticker right there. And that sticker is a QR code. QR code, we don't really care about QR codes, as a matter of fact, because behind it, we put an RFID chip, so we use NFC as well. So you, as a user, you choose NFC, QR codes, or something else that we might dream up. That's not the issue here, which is something I want to point out, because that has been a big debate in the payment market, whether you should use QR code or NFC to connect the mobile to the cashier point. Anyway, so you scan this QR code or NFC, you get the sum up on your screen, and you PIN code it, and you're done. This transaction today takes about half of a card payment, and as I said, for the merchant, is about half the price. So the merchant makes money from day one. As a matter of fact, we could charge much less than half the price. We're quite open, as a matter of fact, with saying that even if we charge you, McDonald's, for example, where you can pay with this, half the price of a card fee, of your current card fees, we make over 90% operational net on that. Which, of course, then means that they say, well, then we want it cheaper. But they don't get it cheaper, because half is good enough. But clearly, routing mobile payments, using the mobile as it should be used in a mobile payment scenario as a router, routing it through direct network will put an enormous downward pressure over time for the fees that you as online dealers and physical dealers are paying for this. And it will change the economy a lot for how the consumer business is done. Now, another thing that is sort of interesting with the mobile is that it's alive. You can push advertising through it, for example. So every time a consumer goes and pay with Secure, you get when you get to the page where it's completed, the payment, then you get an advertisement currently from Coca-Cola. And that advertisement you can, of course, not push if it's a card transaction, because the card is just a piece of plastic. So it means that a company like us can have an additional revenue stream from the payment. And currently, this is quite profitable for us. So it actually means that, technically speaking, we could run the payment on zero. Other revenue streams that you can get suddenly because you have the mobile is that we're pushing digital coupons through the payment method, so that you go there, shop, and the merchants and the producers, such as Coke, are pushing offers, coupons through there. And if you pay with the app, then suddenly, and you buy a Coke Light 1.5 liter, you get money off. You don't even have to know you have a coupon. It's flickering. Okay. You don't even know how to have a coupon, but you get the money off anyway. This you cannot as well do it with the card. And there suddenly, we are in the Groupon business. So the payment is extremely central for what happens in the online and offline commerce. And if you control the payment, you control a lot of these things that you view as sort of singular businesses, such as Groupon, advertising through mobiles, etc., etc., etc. So, on that note, I think I'll stop. I know there's going to be a little bit of a panel debate, I think, so we can probably answer some questions after that. Thank you.